to accept it when it comes across. Okay. I think most of y'all know Rex Tignor. He's worked with me, and he and I's worked together on doing some training and working conferences together. He's a good friend of mine, and we talk quite frequently about a lot of things. And I asked Rexy if he'd come on. He was on, I think, the first time we did this year, and asked him if he'd come back and do another one for us. So he's doing, of course, the one that we're calling a friend is. And so I'm not going to go any further with that introduction, but just let's have some fun tonight, listening to him and having a good discussion afterwards. So, Rex, it's all yours.
All right. Hey, guys, for the next 20 minutes, you're going to drink out of a fire hose about one of my favorite topics. You know, I have been in men's ministry long enough, and I found out that most men can name 6 guys carry their casket, but they can't name that guy they call at 2 a.m. And one of the things that we're really seeing after COVID is that men are really friend poor. They really don't have those guys that they can call, that they meet with, that they hang out with, you know, that they do things with. And if you have the handout, one of the opening statement says, friends are rare men who ask you how you are and then wait for an answer. You know, most guys, they want to find out how you are, and they really don't want an answer because they're afraid of what you're going to say. So as we move on through this, the very first thing I want to cover is what toxic friends look like, because so many guys, we don't have a clue of what a toxic friend looks like. So the very first one is they suck the air out of you. I know you probably don't have any of those guys in your church. You find most of those at your work, you know, because these guys just don't go to church. You know, you don't have any air suckers in your church. They're all fixed. They're all great. They're all in good mode, you know. I'm just kidding. But, you know, there's those guys that when you're doing a men's group and they walk in the room, you kind of go, ugh, because you know what it's going to be like. You know, so be aware of the air suckers. They just want to drain you. I get guys all the time that call me and say, hey, look, can we meet? And I said, sure. I meet them. And I found out what I've started doing is I always take a pen and a Post-it note. And while we're meeting, I slide it across the table to them and I go, hey, write down one thing you want to change in your life starting right now. The air suckers won't fill out the Post-it note, but the guys who really want to change will fill that Post-it note out and they'll slide it right back to you. Guys, don't allow men to just waste your time because there's too many other men that really need your time. So the next thing is they don't understand boundaries, guys. These guys need to understand boundaries. There's times that I just don't do anything. There's times, the weekends and things like that. You can call me or whatever else if you're in an emergency and we'll chat. We'll get you through whatever. But, you know, the weekend is my family and things like that, because a lot of times I'm doing conferences somewhere. The next one is they try to change you. Have you ever run across one of those guys? The guy that you sit and talk and he tries to get you to start agreeing to his view, to start understanding what he wants to do. He's always trying to manipulate, always trying to figure a way to cut a corner or something like that. The next one is there's always drama around him. Beware of this toxic friend, because if he's walking in drama all the time around him, you need to be aware, because you can get sucked into that drama sometimes. And when you get sucked into that drama, it doesn't go good. I can tell you, trust me. The next one is they lie to you. Oh man. They never tell you the truth. They always have a lie. And then you work it around and you find out that they're lying to you, and then you have to deal with it. And then they make it all about them. This is the guy that is just, it's me. It doesn't have to be about you, but it's always about him. He's always got something going on. Him and about me and drama kind of connect together. Okay. And then the next one is this is one of my favorites. And this is the one that I run into a lot is they always have an excuse of why they can't change, why they don't want to change, why they want to do this, why they want to do that. They always have an excuse, and they know it's wrong, but they keep doing it because they have an excuse. So let me ask you guys, let me just throw this out at you. But sometimes when life hits, who do you talk to? When things go bad, who do you talk to? Back in September, I sit in the doctor's office and he gave me some bad news. Who do you talk to? You know, who can you be totally honest with? I mean, there's times in your life where there's just something that you need to get off of your chest and you need to understand how to handle it. Who will be honest with you? Who'll listen to you? You know, I mean, when I got the news in September, I just wanted somebody to listen to me. I wanted somebody to help me process what was going on and everything else. And that's what happens. Who do you take advice from? Oh my gosh. Guys, there's plenty of verses in Proverbs about this. Look them up, man. I'm telling you, be careful who you take advice from. Who do you when you fall, when you get hit, when life just hits you, when life wears you down, who'll come along and who'll throw you over their shoulder and who'll carry you out? Who'll walk alongside of you? Who are those guys that will come along? We're going to talk about those guys in a minute. Who helps you stay on track? Guys, I meet with guys every Monday. Meet with guys every Tuesday. And these are my battle buddies, man. These are my local battle buddies. I've got Mike and I've got a couple guys elsewhere in the country that are my battle buddies too. But these are my local battle buddies. These are the guys that we meet. We're honest. We're open. We talk. We check each other through the week. We call each other through the week. Men, I can tell you one thing. If you don't have somebody riding shotgun in your life, Satan is going to pick you off. You better have some battle buddies. And now I call them, you know, I really kind of learned this thing from Mark 2, but men, you will never make it to the roof alone. You will never, ever make it to the roof alone. You remember the story in Mark 2, the paralyzed guy laying by the side, just hanging out. Jesus was in town and everything was happening. And all of a sudden, some guys showed up. Some guys showed up and they picked this guy up and they carried him to where Jesus was. And they looked in the house, and the place was just packed. It was just full of people. But these guys didn't give up. These guys carried a man up on the roof and he started digging a hole through the roof right above Jesus's head. Can you imagine what was going on? Here's Jesus trying to teach the people. And all of a sudden, all this stuff starts falling in on top of you. I mean, I bet it was just a cool moment, you know. And, you know, Jesus probably just does one of these, you know, he just looks up and just lets it continue to happen. And the next thing, there's a hole that appears in the roof. And all of a sudden, these four men, they're holding this guy's mat and they're letting him down through the roof. And he's going down and he's coming right down there where Jesus is. Who do you have that will get you to Jesus when all hell is breaking loose in your life? These guys didn't give up at the door. These guys didn't give up on the roof. These guys saw it all the way through. And I love what it says in verse 6 is it says, when Jesus saw their faith. Guys, I want men around me who are going to call the best out of me. I want men around me who are going to tell me when something's wrong, when something's not out, or when something's out of whack. I want guys around me that will walk with me through life, that will have my back. So let's look at these 10 qualities really quick. And like I said, I'm just blowing through this because I know we only have 20 minutes. But there are 10 qualities of a true friend that I want to look at. Proverbs 27:17. I love this version of it. It says, as iron sharpens iron, so one friend sharpens another. You all know the history. You all know how swords are made, how knives are made. You got to beat on them. You got to get them hot. You got to work them. You know what I mean? You just got to work them. And it's a process and it's work. It's the same process in building friends, guys. You will never trust the biggest word in having friends is trust. You got to trust them, and they've got to know they can trust you. So my favorite definition of what a true friend is the one where he walks in when everybody else walks out. I had that guy that walked in when everybody else walked out. I got some news from a ministry and I was told I wasn't good enough to be a minister, that I wasn't good enough to be a pastor. and that I needed more time and all this other stuff. And I've learned a long time ago, guys, that if people can't believe what God's doing in your life, they're never going to believe this book right here. And I told them that, and they really weren't happy with me when I left. But hey, such is life. So we were heading on out and everything else, and these guys had just turned their back, and I was upset. I was going to walk away from everything. And the next thing is I get a call from the national office and says, "Hey, we want you to travel with Dan Erickson for 18 months training our denomination on why minister to men." Dan walked in when everybody else walked out. I didn't know who Dan was from Adam, but every time when Dan and I would leave a place where we were doing the training, he would go his way to get on his airplane. I'd go my way to get on mine. And the next thing would happen just before we did that, he would always hug me and he would always tell me, he said, "You're the best." For 18 months, I heard Dan tell me I was the best. The last time Dan and I got together when we ended the training, the 18 months, Dan looked at me and he told me, he says, "You're the best. Now go be who God called you to be." See, man, we need men in our lives who are going to walk in while everybody else is walking out. If you don't have those guys, you're just going to get left alone eventually. But guys, we really need those guys that are going to call the best out of us. And we'll talk a little bit. They don't care who you are, where you've been. I mean, I totally wrecked my life. I used to play ball. I used to play softball and just totally destroy my life. I played with teams in Carolina and Tennessee and Delaware and different places like that. And I just totally wrecked my life. And there was this church team. And I didn't know this at the time, but they always took somebody like me and they brought them in to play on their team. And they spent that softball year just building friends with them and just getting to know them, building trust and everything else. These guys didn't care about my past. They only cared about my future. And these guys, and I built some tremendous friendships with these guys. We're not all at the same church anymore. We're scattered all over the place, but we still stay in contact. And it's so cool. It's like, that guy, that you haven't seen in a long time, and all of a sudden you call him and it's just like you hadn't missed a beat. It's just like you were having coffee with him yesterday. So guys, we need men in our lives that really don't care about where we've been. They care more about where we're going. The third one is they stand with us in tough times. Guys, you need men who will stand with you. You need men who you can call and say, "Hey, I just got this news. Hey, this just happened. Hey, I'm going through this. I just lost my job. My wife and I having an argument and it's all my fault. What do I need to do?" You need men who are going to stand with you in tough times. Sometimes you're going to support them. I like to say it this way is sometimes you need a man that'll fight with you, and sometimes you need a man that'll fight for you. Guys, you need that man that will fight in the battles with you. And when you can't fight them, you need a guy that'll fight for you. Here's my favorite one is they call the best out of you. It's like having a bunch of eagles around you and they're always calling you out to soar. They don't want to see you peck with the turkeys. And if you see you pecking with one, they're going to call you out on it. But they call the best out of you. They challenge you to be better. They challenge you. This morning we had a guy 77 years old sitting across the table from us. And he's actually coming to Wilmington with us. And he sit there and he goes, he says, "This has just totally transformed my life." At 77 years old. I mean, this guy is now helping people build ramps. I mean, he's got it. He's figured it out now. The next one is they tell you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not. That's what Jack will tell me the truth in a minute. We sit there and say something or whatever else, or, "Hey, I'm trying to figure out this." Jack will tell you the truth in a minute. We need to be those guys, and we need those guys in our lives. Number 6 is they will not give up on you. Guys, don't ever give up on a guy. Don't ever give up on him. always hang in there. You know, those guys that don't fill out the Post-it note at first, I don't ever give up on them. But sometimes I'll go back and I'll check up on them. And sometimes they'll get so bad in their lives that they'll call me and go, hey, I got my Post-it note filled out. When he calls you and says he's got the Post-it note filled out, man, you can go to work. See, I can't fix a guy, but I can lead him to a guy that can totally transform his life. I had a guy one time, he met with me, and almost a year later to the date, he called me and he said, I got my Post-it note filled out. See, it hadn't gotten bad enough yet over here. He just wanted to tell his wife that he was meeting with me. He didn't really want to change. He just wanted to talk about change. You don't know any of those guys, do you? You know, those guys that just want to always, you know, talk about change, but they don't ever want to put any effort into it. The next one is they're dependable guys. You need men who are dependable. My wife's mother was in the hospital on the 4th floor, and her dad was in the emergency room. He got sick while she was in the hospital. He got sick. They were in the emergency room. My wife and I had not had anything to eat all day long, and by the time we got a chance to get to it, the place had closed. And I called this guy, I called Jack, and I says, hey, man, we're over at the hospital. And I said, we have had nothing to eat all day long, and we really can't leave because of what's going on. He said, I'll be right there. Brought a Subway. We ate. They even sit down and ate with us for a minute, you know. But that's a guy that's dependable. I knew I could call him and I knew he would show up. Guys, we need to be that guy for men, and we need those guys for us. They don't hold grudges over petty disagreements, guys. This is the big thing right here is down at the bottom a little bit further. It says, never forget, friendships are like a book. It takes a long time to write one and only a few minutes to burn it. So many times we can build a friendship, and something so petty will work its way in, and it'll start destroying that friendship. And that's what Satan wants to do. Satan wants to get you out on your little island all alone so he can just pick you off and he can just mess with you. But as long as you got guys around and you work through your little petty things and things like that, Satan, he doesn't like what goes on. And then number 9 is they listen to hear. This is big, guys. This is so big. When you're sitting across the table from other men, or you're building friends with other men, listen to hear what's really going on in their lives. Sometimes it's not the words they're speaking, it's the actions, it's the mannerisms, it's the eyes, it's the twitching, it's all the other things. Listen to hear what's really happening, because that is where you're going to be the best served as a friend, is in that case right there. So at the bottom of your page, you've got, it says name 4 men. You know, you may already have a couple, but write 4 names down there of guys that you just would like to go and say, hey man, let's get a cup of coffee sometime. Let's sit around and chat. You know, and I can tell you one of the things too, and I see a lot of older guys on this screen, but I'm going to tell you there's 63% of the millennial and the Gen Zs that are looking for a man 50 years and older to spend time with. Somebody that will be honest with them, somebody that will call out the best of them, somebody that'll be real with them, and somebody that's accessible to them. Guys, there's a whole thing. If you want it, email me, email Mike, and I'll send it. It's how you reach millennials. But guys, I'm telling you, they are screaming out for you to come and walk alongside of them, how to have a cup of coffee and things like that. And then the last statement here, it says, truly great friends are impossible to forget. Guys, that is so true. So true. Those guys that really make an impact in your life, and those guys that walk with you through life, you never forget them. You don't ever forget them. So guys, we're going to open up number 10 down here. That is for you to fill out. Maybe there's something that you really look for. Maybe there's something that you really think is a great quality of a friend. Write it down in that blank. That might be your number 1 guy, one of the things that you want to look at, you want to talk with. You know, Mike has them, and I have them. You know, you can get them from Mike. But when I first start meeting guys, I use this little card right here. And it's simply called Group Up. And it's got questions. It said, what did you learn what would you learn in your Devo this week? What could you have done better this week? And what would you change about this week? And it's just something to start conversations. That's it. Just 3 simple questions. Find 3 other guys, talk through these 3 questions. If you really want to add to it, you can say, what did you learn this week? And you can talk about in your marriage, in your fathering, in your work, in life. But one of the things you always talk about is you challenge the guy to just read a Devo sometime through the week and come in there the next week and just say, hey, what stood out to you? What really stood out to you? In your Devo, everybody's reading a different one. It's okay. But guys, really, we need men who will help us get to the roof. And there are other men in our churches that need to get to the roof. I talked to my pastor on Sunday and I said, Pastor, I said, you've got a tremendous load on you. The elders have a tremendous load on them. Let me take some of the load off of you. When you get a guy in your office and you see you're going to have to meet with him a couple of weeks or whatever else, let me meet him, And he goes, man, he said, that would just be so awesome, Take the load off. There's guys that are screaming out for other men to walk through life with them that are doing it alone and they're failing. Guys, don't let men get picked off on your watch. So let's pray. Dear God, I just thank you for what you're doing. I just pray that these guys will just grab a hold of something that was said here tonight and that they will start impacting and make a difference in a life of another person. And maybe they'll surround themselves with some really good guys. Dear God, just continue to work and move in our lives and just thank you for all you do. In your name, amen. All right, Mike.